All right, full disclosure, guys, I am triggered. So I've been saying for some time, Robert Downey Jr. probably coming back as Iron Man in the MCU. And yesterday, this news blew up and came to the forefront of conversation as Variety dropped this crazy article in which they kind of outlined just how bad things have gotten for Marvel Studios. Did a full breakdown on that yesterday. Go check that out. But the point is, they talk about in the article how Marvel is seriously considering bringing some of the OG Avengers back. This includes Scarlett Johansson as Black Widow and Robert Downey Jr. as Tony Stark. And again, I've been telling you that this is probably going to happen. And on top of all of that, My Time to Shine Hello dropped yesterday that Robert Downey Jr. has already agreed to come back as Tony Stark. And I'm pretty confident that what she's talking about is more than Secret Wars. Now, anything could happen. Marvel's always making decisions and things are usually in flux over there. That's just how they operate as a studio. But it really looks like Robert Downey Jr. is coming back. And so you might be asking, why am I so triggered? Why am I triggered? That sounds like something you would love, Josh. It is something that I would love, but I'm triggered because I am blown away at the amount of people out there that don't seem to like this idea. I did a poll on Twitter asking you guys if you would want the OG Avengers to come back, and it ended at about 60% of you saying yes and 40% of you saying no. And that 40% number is way higher than I expected, and it's absolutely triggering. I've honestly been arguing with people on Twitter like all day today and even a lot of yesterday about this whole situation because I just think people are so wrong. So many bad takes out there. And so in this video, I wanted to go over some of the bullshit. Some of the arguments that you guys have out there that are complaining about Robert Downey Jr. coming back as Iron Man. Oh my God, I can't even believe it. As I'm saying the words, I can't believe there are people that don't think this is absolutely incredible. So the first main thing that people were talking about was the fact that this was a desperate move by Marvel to get viewers back. Did you know that when Robert Downey Jr. was first being killed off, like when they were first talking about this for Endgame, both Jon Favreau and RDJ himself thought it was a bad idea. Even Kevin Feige went back and forth on it, but ultimately decided that yes, they should kill off Tony Stark. And this has happened in Marvel Comics before. Tony Stark died in the 90s and was replaced by a teenage version of himself. He died during the Onslaught event and was resurrected by Franklin Richards in a pocket universe during Heroes Reborn. And even recently, he died at the end of Civil War 2 and had to reboot his body, download his brain into it, and now he's back in comics doing Tony Stark things. And so I think it's obvious that Marvel Studios always considered the possibility of bringing Tony Stark back. And in fact, we know for sure they were always going to be bringing him back for Secret Wars. I'm sure you know what Secret Wars is at this point, and it's a huge thing that we all talk about. But what you might not know is that this was always the plan from Kevin Feige to bring these characters back, and that includes Chris Evans as Captain America and Robert Downey Jr., who dies in his own snap at the end of Endgame. Those characters were always going to come back for the Secret Wars movie. We don't know for sure, but it's probably always been a possibility for them to come back just in general and do more Avengers movies. In fact, if you go back to the Joe Rogan RDJ interview, Joe Rogan perfectly explains where most fans are at.
Is the door to Iron Man totally closed? Because I don't believe it is.
Oh.
You guys can go through time now. You can go, you already opened up that door.
Well, let me ask you the question. If I pick the jersey back up and put it on, wouldn't you feel a little bit like, oh,
no.
crap?
No.
Oh.
Here's what I think.
All right.
They go through a few semi-lackluster Avengers movies without you. You ready for this?
I'm ready.
Here's the scene. There's a moment where the world's fate is at stake, and they realize they need a super genius. And then they figure out how to restart that time machine.
Great.
Come on, man.
Because this is all based on comic books, and they've done this so many times in comic books, I would argue this has always been an idea, or at least a possibility over at Marvel. Now, I do agree that times are kind of desperate. Just look around and look at this article from yesterday. It's obvious things are not clicking right now. They're not working with Marvel, and I think the more they put out content that fans are not resonating with, the worse it's going to be for the brand. And I think all of us can acknowledge that things were way better during the Infinity Saga. Dude, it was just way more connected, felt so much more real as you were basically getting these crazy adventures through the lensing of these fantastically cast characters. And there's just a reason that it works. And I think Robert Downey Jr. absolutely carries the Infinity Saga. He is the bread and butter of the MCU. He is the MCU. So while it is a desperate situation, and it is possible that that desperate situation is making Marvel look at options they already had and select one that they think will resonate with audiences. I don't agree that it's just this cash grab, desperate, oh my God, break glass in case of emergency. Can we get Robert Downey Jr. back? Now, the second bullcrap argument that a lot of you guys are talking about online is the fact that Marvel should just do a better job with the current cast of characters. That we should not betray this new cast of Avengers by just bringing Tony Stark back, bringing Robert Downey Jr. back. It would be a slap in the face of all of these other characters. Bruh, we've been watching them develop these characters. We've been watching them give this a shot. And you might say, dude, no, that's not fair. Some of these characters in the Infinity Saga got multiple movies, and Tony himself was spread out throughout all of these different movies. Well, I'd like to remind you that Tony Stark himself actually has a pretty bad trilogy. His second and third movie aren't even that good, but it was when they started using him as the glue across the entire thing where we really cracked into the genius of that character, of that performance, and it elevated the entirety of the MCU. I would also like to bring to your attention that a lot of the newer characters have been given their own television shows and therefore have literally more screen time, more minutes on screen than some of the OG Avengers had on the run-up to Infinity War. That includes characters that have an entire trilogy. Characters like She-Hulk, Moon Knight, Sam Wilson, Miss Marvel, and Kate Bishop were literally on the screen in front of audiences more than characters that were back in the Infinity Saga. What I'm saying is, we've already done a lot of that. We've already tried a lot of that. And just like in comics, it's just not working. It's super rare to get a newer character to resonate with audiences in the same way that some of these classic heroes have. Occasionally it happens. I think Miles Morales is an example of that. I think Gwen Stacy as Spider-Woman or Ghost Spider, I think that's an example of a character, a newer one, that has really resonated with audiences, but it's incredibly rare that that happens. I mean, can you imagine DC without Wonder Woman, Batman, or Superman? Can you imagine Marvel without the Hulk, Spider-Man, Iron Man, Captain America, and Thor? These franchises have survived the test of time because those characters are so cool that people have kept coming and reading those stories or watching those stories for decades and decades and decades. Like, these characters have stood the test of time, and Marvel Comics always does this. Sometimes they'll change up the status quo, but they end up reverting it and putting back those heavy hitter familiar characters that fans absolutely love. And the next absolutely crazy, ridiculous thing that people are saying that don't like the idea of bringing RDJ back as Iron Man is all about his sacrifice in Endgame. Oh no, you can't bring that character back. It would ruin Endgame. It would destroy that movie and I'd hate it forever. Are you excited about Hugh Jackman coming back for Deadpool 3? Have you been enjoying the Loki show? Did you like Game of Thrones when Jon Snow came back? What about Gandalf? Gandalf coming back? Oh no, I can't believe it. Tolkien, it's just a cash grab. You're gonna ruin his sacrifice when they were fighting against the Balrog. I mean, look, I'm not saying you can't feel that way. I'm just saying I feel like a lot of people are being super inconsistent with this. You'd like certain times when a character comes back to life, but other times you're like, no, that would ruin the sacrifice. I mean, Logan is one of the best comic book movies of all time. It has a damn near perfect ending for the Wolverine character, and yet most Wolverine fans will tell you they're super excited for Logan to be back in Deadpool 3, to be wearing the yellow and blue, and I can't wait to see what he does in Secret Wars. It doesn't diminish the Logan movie. I can go watch the Logan movie anytime I want, and it's a good ending for that character and a start to some other stories. Loki has an incredible death in Infinity War. It's arguably just as important and meaningful as the death of Tony Stark. Loki, just as much an iconic character, and yet Marvel did something crazy with him, took him out of time from the past after he had died and gave him an entirely new arc that's been really fulfilling to watch. I love this Loki, this variant that we're seeing now, and I think he's going to end up being Avenger Prime or the God of Stories Loki and be super significant for the MCU. I'm just saying, man, I understand that some people are really frustrated with Marvel. I understand some people think, man, them just doing this is gimmicky. This is not going to work. But it's just crazy to me. It feels like you're forgetting all of the reasons you fell in love with Marvel in the first place. I mean, if you really love the Infinity Saga, if you really love that stuff, don't you want to see it repeated in the future? Don't you want that same energy to come back? And I would tell you, even if you're a fan of these newer characters, you want the OGs to come back. You want them to come back because the current setup for these characters is just not working. And if the popularity of the MCU completely evaporates and it gets blamed on these new characters, you really think that's going to be great for these new characters, their legacy, and the fandom overall? No, we want it to actually work and resonate with audience. So you do what they do in comic books. You bring some of the OGs back and you build up new characters alongside the OGs. That's the best way to do it. That's the best way to grow, pass the baton, set up potential new things. I mean, Miles Morales, incredible example of this. Miles worked because Peter became his Uncle Ben. And then Peter from 616 becomes a partner that helps him and trains him. And then Aunt May in the Ultimates universe helps him out as well. So it's like this, using the legacy character alongside Miles Morales to actually elevate that character and bring status of the character up. Anyway, I know I'm rambling. I got a lot more to say about this, but I just had to make this video because I'm shocked at how many people are like, no, don't bring Robert Downey Jr. back, not permanently. That'll ruin everything. I'm like, what are you talking about? It is not only something they've considered forever, but it is absolutely the move that will breathe fresh life back into the MCU. I can't wait for Robert Downey Jr. to return as Iron Man. I think it's absolutely freaking dope. But of course, I want to know what you think about it. So let me know your thoughts in the comments section below. As I always say, I hope you're having an awesome and a nerdy day, and I'll see you in the next video.